Welcome to the GenZero Classroom. My name is Paul Kett. I'm Director General for Higher Education and Further Education here at the Department for Education, and I'm delighted to be welcoming you here. This GenZero Classroom was ultra low carbon in construction, is net zero, is made of the wonderful Scottish spruce, and so it's wonderful to be here as part of an event associated with COP26 to celebrate the work that we're doing together. And in particular, we'll spend some time talking about green skills and careers. And we've got some fantastic guests here to speak to you, and we're broadcasting on YouTube for colleagues watching in their bedrooms and elsewhere. So let me firstly introduce our keynote speaker, Alex Burkhart, the Minister for Skills and Apprenticeships at the Department for Education.
Thanks very much, Paul, and thank you all for being here today. It's really is inspiring to be at COP. I've only been in post as a minister for about 6 weeks, and so to come here and suddenly be put into the middle of what is one of the most important international meetings, I think really of our time, is a real honour. You see, I think, and I started life as a history teacher. Well, I didn't start life as a history teacher, but I started adult life as a history teacher. And politicians can sometimes overplay the historical importance of the things they're involved in. But the movement that is taking place across the world right now to change the way in which we generate power, change the way in which we do things, is the sort of thing that hasn't happened before. Because the transition away from carbon to fully sustainable sources of energy is not being done to make countries richer or to make people more powerful. It's being done because it's essential for the future of our society. And that collective responsibility and that shared mission is something that comes around very, very infrequently. And I think it is the mark of how, I like to think it is the mark of how we are maturing as a global society. And thank you all for the part that you are playing in that. And it is on us, it will be our children and their children who will look back to this decade as a turning point and judge us. The onus is on us to make sure that we turn in the right direction toward a healthy, beautiful planet, and not one that is inhospitable and dangerous. I know you will agree we need to act, and we need to act now, and that's what COP26 is all about. It's about recognizing that we would be foolish to think that we can solve the climate crisis unilaterally. As a father, I want to leave my children a healthy world. As a government minister, I know that we all need to use our influence in Whitehall to make this a reality. It's a vision shared across this government from the very top, and it's led by the Prime Minister. I know that it's shared equally as passionately by all of you in the room today, and that you all acknowledge we have our own roles to play. That's why the government will work across business to grow green industries and supply chains in the UK, supporting up to 440,000 jobs across net zero industries by 2030. And this will contribute to a broader pivot to a greener economy, which could support 2 million jobs in green sectors or by greening existing sectors. That's 2 million people leaving education or having retrained and upskilled, looking for and finding jobs in our country that will help reduce emissions and allow us to live more sustainably. And it's 2 million people who will be paid well in rewarding jobs with real social value at the same time. In the future, we expect this to grow even more. With 6.3 million jobs in the UK, that's going to be about 1 in 5 are likely to be affected by the transition to the green economy. But we need our green revolution to have solid economic foundations. To do this, we need to focus on skills. We need to invest in people. We need to invest in all of the people who are listening today so that they can deliver the changes our country and the world so desperately need. And so this is what we're going to do. Of course, much of this starts at a young age, which is why we've made sure climate change is taught in the curriculum. Everywhere from geography to science to citizenship, everywhere to give young people the building blocks they need for a greener future. And our recently announced sustainability and climate change strategy for education and children's service sectors recognises that education, skills and access to nature will be crucial. It will join up efforts across government ministries and the UK education sector to ensure we're all aligned in what we're doing while we continue to work with business. And what we should be clear to everyone by now is that we cannot realise our potential if we do not embark on wholesale reform of the skills system so that training providers, employers and learners are incentivised and equipped to play their part in transitioning to net zero. The positive news is that we've started this work already. Through legislation and the new Skills and Post-16 Education Bill, we will be looking to training providers, employers and learners to play their part in delivering net zero. And we've just published our net zero strategy, which sets out how people can train and upskill for jobs in the green economy. And this is through our various skills programs. We're already expanding our post-16 training programs from apprenticeships, skills boot camps and T-levels to make sure that what you learn is what employers need you to know, giving you access to the best green jobs and businesses across to the best talent to make our green revolution a reality. Even this is not going to be enough. So our landmark lifetime skills guarantee will give people already working opportunities to train and retrain throughout their lives so that they can garner new skills and cash them in for jobs that help safeguard the planet. And as some of you might know, in November last year, the government convened a Green Jobs Task Force, which is now reported back to us. We are now at the next step in building on the Green Jobs Task Force report and the net zero strategy to help government's commitment in supporting green jobs and skills. And on that note, in a moment, I'm going to hand over to Nick and Rhian, who have been instrumental in the Green Jobs Task Force, to speak in more detail about the green challenges and opportunities ahead of us. But those opportunities are as broad as our imagination can stretch. And I think one of the things I've learnt from being at COP over the past couple of days is that it's in the skills agenda that we have the opportunity to say to young people, don't just shout on the sidelines. Come and be involved in this revolution. Come and get the skills that the future economy needs in order to save the planet. Anyway, over to Nick and Rhian. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Minister, for those remarks. I'm Nick Mollo, the Executive Director of the Aldersgate Group. For those of you who don't know us very well, we are a cross-economy business organisation that makes the business case for ambitious climate and environmental policy. And many of our members are focused on really skilling up both their current and the future workforce to take on the jobs of tomorrow, which the Minister just described. We also have academic institutions and NGOs as part of our membership who work very closely with us. Now, what I've been asked to do today, together with Rhian at National Grid, is to give you a bit of an overview of some of the recommendations that we made in the Green Jobs Task Force. But before I do that, I wanted to restate the importance of having a plan for low carbon skills in the first place. Now, I think having a dedicated plan on this agenda is important for three reasons. The first one, as the Minister mentioned, is that we expect significant job creation to result from the net zero transition. Now, Rhian here, National Grid, and her colleagues published an excellent report last year, which showed that just in the energy sector, in order to get to net zero by 2050, we're looking at 400,000 jobs needing to be created. 260,000 of those jobs would be new jobs. Now, of course, we need to make sure that we have people with the right skills to do those jobs. The second reason is that actually the transition to net zero emissions really does create an opportunity for the levelling up agenda and really tackle the issue of regional inequality that both here in the UK and in other parts of Europe we are currently confronted with. So if you look, for example, at the decarbonisation of heavy industry, sectors such as steel, cement, chemicals, glass, ceramics actually really increasingly see the net zero transition as an opportunity to bring investment and job creation to a very diverse range of locations which have suffered from a lack of investment over the last 2 or 3 decades. So we're looking at areas as diverse as South Wales, Humberside, Teesside, Merseyside, Southampton, Grangemouth. in order to ensure that the investment does go to those regions and that the workforce is ready to take on those job opportunities, we need to really think quite carefully around how we equip people in those regions with the right skills. So that's why a coordinated plan on skills is going to be so important. And finally, and the Minister touched on this as well, we also have to be transparent and honest about the fact that the nature of the jobs as we move to net zero is going to change in some sectors. So a statistic that really struck us on the Green Jobs Task Force came from the London School of Economics, who did quite a sort of detailed regional study exercise in the UK and found that around 10% of skills that exist today will see demands go up. So that's around 3.1 million jobs. But an equal number, around 10% of jobs that currently exist in the UK workforce today, will see the demand for their skills reduce over the next 30 years. So we need to have a very clear plan in place to cater for this in advance, to ensure that those whose skills will be increasing see an increase in well-equipped workers to be able to take on those jobs. And equally, those working in areas with a decline in demand for skills are supported in terms of retraining and reskilling. So that's why the Green Jobs Task Force is so important. And we were a group of businesses, business group, trade unions, NGOs, as well as academic institutions working really closely together to make sure that we could come up with some very tangible recommendations to government, to the Department of Education, to business, to the Department of Works and Pensions, to really ensure that we can make a success of this transition and that job creation comes with a really ambitious and comprehensive skills agenda. Now, it was a huge endeavor. We reviewed over 200 reports. We had multiple stakeholder meetings. At one point, and that was probably the most entertaining of all meetings, we had over 300 policy ideas on the dashboard. And we ended up having to filter those down to a top 15. Now, those top 15 recommendations then made it into 3 themes, which we broke as follows. The first theme was around creating a supportive investment for net zero. So in other words, if we're going to scale up people to be able to do the jobs involved in the net zero transition, we need to make sure we have a policy context that actually incentivizes businesses to invest in low carbon goods and services in the first place. Then the second theme was around reforming the education system, making sure that today's education system across the whole curriculum from primary school through to further and higher education is genuinely equipped to prepare people for the change that we are embarking on. And the third theme really was focused on those currently in the workforce, but who over their working lifetime are going to see the nature of their jobs change. And we wanted to make sure that we had recommendations for those as well. So what I will do now is I will give you a quick sort of overview of the first 2 themes, and then Rian and National Grid will give you a sense of what we recommended in the third theme. So the first theme was really about creating a supportive investment context for the net zero transition. I think the key thing there is in order to generate that job creation as we move to net zero, we need to have clear policy signals that get businesses to invest in the low carbon production facilities, the goods and services that we want to see. And there's a lot we can learn there from the renewable energy sector. The clear targets we had on renewable energy, the very strategic support that we had to support innovation in offshore wind, in onshore wind, in solar, and the market mechanisms such as the contract for differences that we've had in the UK played a massive role in growing the amount of renewable energy that we have on the system today. It's about 40% of where our power comes from. We've already got 10 gigawatts of offshore wind deployed in the system, but it really unleashed a huge amount of business investment, which then translated not just the investment in projects, but investment in production facilities in places such as Hull or the Isle of Wight to manufacture offshore wind components, which in turn resulted in investment in the education system, in apprenticeships, in developing new courses in universities and technical colleges. And the challenge is that we now need to replicate this for the transport sector, the construction sector, the heavy industrial sector, and so on. So we called in particular for the government to publish a net zero strategy. Very pleased to see the strategy come out a couple of weeks ago. It provides a really good blueprint to put us on a pathway to net zero. And the challenge that we have in the coming months and years will be to really develop that nitty-gritty of regulation, standards, fiscal incentives in all these different sectors to make sure that businesses are incentivized. Our second theme was very much focused on young people and the education system. And I think the key message there is that ultimately, if we want to have a successful transition to net zero on the jobs front, we need to make sure that young people are equipped with the skills they need. Now, the first key point we made in our recommendations was that the awareness of climate change and environmental sustainability needs to be fully embedded in the education system across the curriculum. And we're really pleased to hear the Education Secretary on Friday talk about the upcoming review of the primary curriculum, where climate change will play a bigger role. But it's also important that teachers are equipped to teach about these things. One of our members, Students Organising for Sustainability, did a survey late last year which found that 75% of teachers do not feel comfortable teaching their students about climate change and environmental sustainability. So we need to address that. We also talked about the importance of science, technology, engineering and math skills, or STEM skills, which will be vital in the transition to net zero. And here we have a challenge. We have got a skills gap, but we've also got a gender and ethnic diversity gap when it comes to taking up STEM skill subjects. And again, we need to address that both at the government level, but also further and higher education institutions will need to address that directly themselves as well through clear skill action plans. And what came up also very strongly in the task force was the importance of soft skills, such as project management and good communication skills. So if I look across our membership, it's becoming increasingly obvious to me that for different businesses to get to net zero emissions, they need to collaborate. So one of our cement members, Suez, is currently cutting its emissions by using a low carbon fuel that one of our other members in the waste sector, Suez, is generating from business and household waste. But that requires very good cross-sectoral project management and communication skills in order to achieve that. So we need to promote that for the education system as well. And finally, the key point we made in our recommendations was around the importance of promoting green careers across the education system, and in particular in schools. We need to have a much more systematic approach, both not just online, also face-to-face, to really promote the different opportunities that are opening up to young people. I think one of the big challenges we have, it's in many ways a communications and branding problem, is that many young people don't quite realize where the green jobs are. They're not just in offshore wind, they're also in construction. And we're going to need a huge amount of construction workers, possibly as much as 30,000 new construction workers coming on the system every year to develop the state-of-the-art low-carbon buildings that we need, but also to support the huge retrofit effort that we need to do over the UK's 28 million homes. There are green jobs available in the steel sector, cement sector, and so on. So we really need to, I guess, sort of raise awareness in those areas and promote jobs in those sectors. Now, I'll leave it there. I'll now hand over to Rian, who will present the third theme of our recommendations in the Green Jobs Task Force, focused on those currently already in the workforce and who will also need support as we move to net zero. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Nick. I'm really pleased to be here. I'm Rian Kelly, the Corporate Affairs Director at National Grid, and sat on the Green Jobs Task Force with Nick. So I was going to touch on the third theme from the Task Force report, which is a just transition for workers in the high carbon economy. And then I thought I'd also say a few words about some of the work that we've been doing at National Grid and the initiatives we've been putting in place to pull through green jobs and skills. And because I think business has a really important role, I don't want it just to be a conversation about what can government do. I also want it to be a conversation about what can employers do to support green jobs and skills. One of the things I would also say, so the task force was a really interesting experience because it had trade associations, businesses, Department of Education, Department of Business, trade unions, local government representatives, academics. And one of the things that was really interesting was just how much consensus there was. There was virtually no points that we disagreed on. And in fact, too many points we agreed on, hence the need to get from 300 recommendations to 15 and then into 3 policy pillars. It's not always the case, so I think it's worth reflecting on that. But I'm going to touch on that third pillar, so the just transition, and how do we help people move from high carbon industries into these new green jobs and skills. And we had 5 headline recommendations in that third pillar. I'm not going to go through all of them, you'll be pleased to know, but just to pull out a few. One was ensuring that adult skills system is able to respond to local demands. One was supporting sectors, workers from sectors that are high carbon. How do we get them into lower carbon sectors? And then the other one was, third one was the importance of government, employers and trade unions working together to tackle the barriers. So I'm not going to cover all of them, as I said, but one of the ones I really wanted to pull out was the need to boost private investment and the decarbonisation of industry through government prioritising support for high carbon sectors in the transition. This will then in turn lead to protecting jobs in local economies. And when I think about this sort of transition, one of the technologies that often comes to mind is carbon capture, utilization and storage, otherwise known as CCUS. Really important technology for cleaning particularly high carbon sectors and the power sector. I think it's going to do two things. It will create new jobs, but I think it will also protect existing ones and create that transfer of skills from high carbon sectors into lower carbon sectors, particularly energy intensive industries. For those of you that aren't familiar with CCUS, it's another clean economy acronym. It's where we take carbon and we capture it, and then in the UK at least we'll transport it and probably bury it in the seabed in the North Sea. And the reasons that National Grid is involved in this is because we're part of the East Coast cluster. So we're working with other major energy companies in Teesside and Humberside to bring together the cluster. And we were one of the first clusters to win some of the government's £1 billion investment to help. The other cluster was in the northwest. And the reason I mention it here is because the cluster, which is Teesside and Humberside together, will capture about 50% of the UK's industrial emissions, will also create 25,000 jobs between 2030 and 2050 per year. Those are new jobs, but they're also importantly old jobs that we can transfer into these new technologies. So I think that hopefully gives you a sense of some of the opportunities and the technologies that we want to bring forward and that we wanted to emphasise in the Green Jobs Task Force and how we've been working together. But as Nick mentioned, at National Grid, we did a piece of work last year looking at the net zero workforce by 2050. And we found that you needed 400,000 jobs in the energy sector alone if we're going to meet our net zero targets. And 120,000 of those will be needed by 2030. The good news is the jobs were spread all over the UK. So it really is a story about wealth creation, levelling up across the economy. And we have lots of different statistics for different bits of the UK and the technologies that we can pull through. So very exciting. But I think it also sort of demonstrates perhaps the challenges that we have and the gap that we have today. So how do we pull those skills and how do we pull those jobs through? And one of the things that we spent quite a lot of time thinking about in the task force was diversity and the need for more diversity, particularly in my sector, the energy sector. We quite simply won't be able to fill all those roles if we don't start recruiting people into the sector who perhaps haven't thought this is a place for them, people who maybe feel that this isn't a sector they want to be in. But we need new ideas, new approaches, new innovation if we're to tackle climate change and if we're to bring through the technologies. So we need to be recruiting in a much more diverse way than we have in the past, more women and more people from an ethnic background. And I think businesses like National Grid and others who are purpose-led will be able to provide the solutions for this and have a huge role to play. And so just to give you a little bit about what I think that means in practice, at National Grid, last autumn we set out our responsible business charter, which for us sets out what do we think a responsible business means, what do we need to be doing, how should we be showing up, and how do we contribute. In that we had a whole section on investing in local communities and engaging in local communities, and most importantly developing skills for the future, with a focus particularly on lower income communities and providing access to skills. So we committed to developing 45,000 people with access to skills by 2030 and getting our employees engaged. So 500,000 employee volunteering hours by 2030. And as part of this, then we established Grid for Good, which is an energy industry community programme led by us but with others, supporting socioeconomically disadvantaged young people aged 16 to 25. And what we're trying to do is connect the most overlooked and hardest to reach young people in the UK and in the US with training and employment opportunities to help bring them into the energy sector, to help give them the skills and career development that they need to find jobs in the energy sector. We've run the programme virtually so far. It includes a 12-week mentoring programme, 2 weeks work experience, access to our apprenticeships and internships and others in the sector, work readiness training, networking and industry taster sessions, and we've already reached 2,750 young people to date. This is in addition to the sort of work that you would imagine that we do, linked to our projects. One of my favourites at the moment is London Power Tunnels, where we're building, believe it or not, a huge tunnel underneath South London. but where we are engaging with young people in the 8 boroughs that we are working across. We're working in partnership with Generating Genius, and again, going into classrooms, trying to inspire people to come and work for us in the energy sector. So I hope that's given you a taster for what was in the 3rd pillar around a just transition and what that looks like, but also a sense of, I think, the role that businesses can play in pulling through green jobs and skills. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much indeed, Rihanna and Nick. I think we're now going to hear from how that's being brought to life. So if I can welcome Colin Mcdermott from Centrica and Susan McLean, who's our British Gas apprentice, who I think will talk a bit about that.
Okay there. Well, good morning, everyone. Just like to say a big thanks for inviting us along today. It really is a great pleasure to be here and hear all the great things that's happening. My own background, I started off as an engineer many years ago. I've spent the last 20 years or so in learning development, and just recently, over the last year and a half, looking after our core apprenticeship programs. And within Centrica, that core apprenticeship program now is our smart metering installation apprenticeship, which lasts 54 weeks. We have just now roughly about 400 trainees within, or on programme rather, across our 4 academies in the UK, one in Hamilton, one in Thatcham, one in Leicester, and one in Dartford as well. It's interesting to hear some of the previous comments about opening up our programmes to be more diverse and inclusive. Our programme has changed quite markedly within the last probably 18 months or so to try and attract more females into the business, and we're now sitting at 65-35 kind of ratio to that, and we want to shift that dial more. So we're at a point just now we were looking at the actual structure of the programme to bring it to a more green ethos, if you will, because just now it's very much facilitated, so our learners need to travel to an academy site. They need to do, a volume of learning throughout the week, and actually we might be able to change that into more digital and more virtual. So then we're widening up that recruitment pool, and then we're attracting, more females, more people from a diverse background that feeds into our overall strategy about trying to help the UK get to net zero by 2050. I guess just now from an apprenticeship point of view, we have our smart metering apprenticeships, and then we move on to different skills in the green sector. So just now we have a number of engineers going through electrical vehicle installation training and looking at other things. And I guess it's very, from a future lens, it'll be good to see some of the apprenticeship standards that come out from some of the work that Nick is doing, for example, to see where that then takes us as a business and where we actually invest for the future. I think it's all, it's great to talk about new jobs coming in, and Centrica itself will be taking another 3,500 apprentices in by 2030 to support what we're trying to do. But ultimately, I think there's also a case for looking at how we use our levy within the industry as well, primarily to train the trainers. That workforce for us is historically based upon the old traditional gas engineering background. We need to take them in this journey as well, so the apprentices get the new skills, knowledge and indeed behaviours that are important for their development as they move through the programmes as well. And I guess just to finish off, it is exciting. There is a lot of work to be done right throughout the energy industry, and as Centrica through its British Gas and Scottish Gas brands being one of the leading providers of energy and services throughout the UK, to be involved in some of the strategies that are going on as well is a great plus, and is a great privilege for me in my role to see the way we've changed our attitudes towards energy efficiency, certainly within the last 20 years. We've talked about it and maybe just only done minor things with it, but now we can really see a huge shift in what we're trying to do and how we as a business can help the UK as well. And there was going to be some questions to Susan, if anyone's got any questions about our apprenticeship programmes, how they're run, or in fact where Susan's background came from, because a lot of our apprentices aren't just school leavers, they come from a very varied background. And if you want to...
Happy to share a wee bit about my journey and my career within Centrica, if that'll be a good starting point for you guys. So I've been a Centrica employee for just over 11 years now. I have occupied many roles within the business during that 11-year period, and the latest was in the change delivery space, so business readiness and project management. And I was responsible for delivering a lot of the journeys into our business, the customer journeys, such as EV charge point installations and alike. And when the opportunity arose to move into the apprenticeship that I'm in at the minute, the smart metering apprenticeship, I kind of jumped at that. It was always something that I was really interested in from a young age. But I think, taking myself back to when I was in school, which was a while ago, it was probably less heard of for females to be leaving school and moving into roles like that. But I think that the world's probably evolved a bit, and I think that Centrica has definitely evolved with the world, and we're not only kind of supporting females to move into this kind of role, but we're encouraging it proactively. So it's something that I'm really proud to be part of. And with the role that I'm in at the minute, I've been able to take the things that I've delivered from a customer journey point of view and put that into practice in customers' homes, educating them on how to reduce their energy consumption and lower their carbon footprint, and provide them with a bit of education that they probably don't have in that area. Any questions? Yep.
Hello, Ian Patton from EAUC. So many of us here, or some of us here, are in education.
Yep.
What's the message, or what's the one thing you think we can do in education to inspire people like you, to come into this industry?
Yep. I think what Alex said earlier about encouraging people not only to kind of be standing in the sidelines shouting about the cause that they're fighting for, but we're almost opening up the possibility for people to get involved in that hands-on. And I think just delivering that message is probably really important and really vital in encouraging people to kind of take up those roles.
It's probably just to add on to that as well. Whilst you're talking about our traditional engineering apprenticeships and such, we do have external apprenticeships they offer in the IT world, finance, etc. That will feed into the green skills agenda that we have within Centrica as well. So we're starting to kind of push some volume down that as well. Again, open up that population to come into the business to get that experience.
Una Simmons, EAUC. I'm interested in the fact you took an apprenticeship after you'd worked for Centrica for some time. So that is particularly relevant to what we're talking about in terms of upskilling current people in the workforce. So what inspired you to do it, and was it a higher level than you had already studied at within the company or elsewhere?
In terms of the level I was at in previous role to now, so it was actually a step back for me in terms of level within the business, if you like. But it was that wasn't really a blocker. It was still something that I was really keen to progress with. And I think the reason for that was probably going back to the gender gap within the field. That was really important for me to be able to play a part in that and almost, I suppose, contribute to closing that gap, and hopefully inspire other females to know that, that there's absolutely no reason why it's any less of a relevant role for them than were male employees.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that story, Susan, and thank you, Colin, for the background on the company. Next, can I invite Sarah Foxl from Microsoft, who's going to share a bit about digital skills in the green economy.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you for inviting Microsoft to talk to you today to contribute to the discussion. My name is Sarah Foxl. I lead Microsoft Philanthropies in the UK, and much of my work is on digital skills, creating more equitable access to tech and tech-enabled roles and access to opportunities in the digital economy. And it's that connection between digital skills and careers and the green economy that I've been asked to speak on today. So if you'll forgive me, I thought a good place to start to show the connection is by starting at where Microsoft is and our commitments around sustainability, because that's a way to understand how we see technology driving our ability to achieve our goals. So we take this really seriously. We see climate change and humanity's response to it as one of the greatest challenges of our lifetime. We believe it's not too late to put together a future that allows everyone to not just survive, but actually to thrive. And for that, we need to work at the intersection of technology and science so that we can better understand what's happening, and respond with tools to better manage our environmental resources, mitigate risks on local and global scales. So at Microsoft, sustainability is not just something that we do from an operational standpoint, it's actually at the very core of our business. We're committed to harnessing the power of technology to help everyone, everywhere, build a more sustainable future. And we're working with partners and customers to accelerate sustainability goals. Just forgive me, there we go. So we are focusing on environmental sustainability in the 4 key areas of carbon, water, waste, and ecosystems. And our goal is to use the whole of Microsoft's business power to effect change in those areas by minimising the negative impacts of our operations and maximising the positive impacts of our technology. In January 2020, we announced a bold commitment and a detailed plan to operate with 100% renewable energy by 2025, be carbon negative by 2030, and remove an equivalent of our historical carbon emissions by 2050. We built on that pledge with a series of commitments to be a water positive and zero waste company by 2030, and to permanently protect more land than we occupy by 2030. We're also developing a planetary computer that puts global scale environmental monitoring capabilities in the hands of scientists, developers, and policymakers. Those are some big, bold ambitions, and many people and organisations are making similar commitments and taking action. And you've heard from the earlier speakers that the taking of that action, the acceleration of this work, is creating this demand for green skills. Skills such as pollution prevention, energy management, environmental auditing, sustainable procurement, ecosystem management, renewable energy generation, and environmental finance. That's also driving a growing demand for digital skills. We've estimated in the region of 3 million more digital specialists in the UK needed by 2025. That's software engineers, data specialists, AI, machine learning, and cybersecurity specialists. And many of those are going to be enabling that drive to net zero. I'd like to share something from a speech made by Chris Packham. I don't know anybody who watched it, the BBC's Icons series last year, and he advocated for Alan Turing, the father of modern computing. And Chris said something like this: California is burning, the Arctic is melting, our species is precipitating its own extinction. Are politicians, explorers, artists or rock stars going to save us? No. The scientists are the only hope for our future, and they are armed by Alan Turing's legacy. Computing is and will be a vital tool in addressing climate change, helping to provide solutions across all 5 R's of the sustainability journey. Apologies. Recording, reporting, reducing, removing, replacing. The recent report from National Grid, Net Zero Energy Workforce, has an insight into how the energy sector sees the need for digital and data skills. And here's what it says: to harness AI to maximise the reliability, responsiveness and accuracy of the UK's energy system, the sector will need to attract experts in machine learning. Digital skills and data analytics will become core skills for the net zero energy workforce, with big data used for network planning, more efficient maintenance and improving risk mitigation. And there's a wonderful quote in the report from Jack Kelly, who's a senior technical consultant. And he said, "I use my knowledge of machine learning to get computers to predict power generation of our renewable resources like wind and solar power. forecasting how cloud patterns affect solar generation or air currents influence wind turbine performance helps us better plan and balance the supply and demand of electricity. There's a connection. But cutting-edge computing isn't only being used in weather scale applications. It gets down to much more mundane tasks in the vital field of waste reduction. So I wanted to talk about Recycli as an example. They are a computer vision startup in London, and they're training powerful recycling robotics with machine learning to bring more precision and automation to the job of sorting waste. The founders started out in a garage using a second-hand running machine as a conveyor belt and grabbing rubbish from bins in the local neighbourhood to test it through the system. Just a few years later, they've developed the world's largest visual AI database of waste items and low-cost robotics technology that automates dangerous manual labour. A very low percentage of plastics is actually able to be recycled, something like 9%. And this is the kind of technology that will enable that 9% to become 10% and onwards and upwards. And there are many examples of how digital technology is being used to help tackle the challenges of sustainability and net zero. And there are lots. The recommendation I'd make is to search for Microsoft's AI for Earth website. Lots of amazing examples there. So you can see digital skills and technology careers are vital parts of the drive to net zero, not only through innovative solutions like Recycli, but by helping any organisation to transform its operations and run more sustainably. That could be deploying solutions for hybrid working that reduce commuting, making more use of cloud computing, or developing solutions for smart homes, smart offices, smart cities. It could be helping through cybersecurity to secure critical national infrastructure around the energy grid. It could be creating monitoring solutions to keep track of puffins near your wind farm, which is a true story. There are lots of opportunities and a number of routes into starting a digital career. An important statistic is that less than half of the digital specialist jobs in the UK are actually in tech companies. The majority are in other businesses. Everything from energy, utilities and manufacturing to financial services, retail, healthcare, and even professional sport. There are apprenticeship and university routes and growing numbers of career switch opportunities. At Microsoft, we've been very involved in apprenticeships for more than 10 years. We think they're a fantastic option, and we support our partners and customers to offer digital apprenticeships working with Microsoft technology. One way we help is through the Microsoft Apprenticeship Connector. It's been created in partnership with Get My First Job to help people find employers offering apprenticeships working with Microsoft technology. We also have a number of apprenticeship opportunities at Microsoft each year. They're not all digital. Some are in sales, marketing, business support, finance. We have opportunities at level 3 and above, and usually have a single intake, with recruitment happening in late winter and early spring. We also provide some year in industry internship places and graduate entry opportunities for university students. But having said that there are opportunities at Microsoft, I also want to stress that there are many, many more opportunities working with equally amazing companies, large and small, beyond Microsoft, including Centrica and National Grid and others in the energy sector. You won't always have heard of the company, so don't let that put you off. Sometimes a smaller company will enable you to gain a wider range of experience and responsibility more quickly. Be open-minded, check them out. I'd suggest nobody had heard of Recycli, but what an amazing place to be working now. So I hope this has given you some understanding of where digital skills and careers intersect with the green economy, and some ideas for pathways into those careers. I wanted to now share a video from one of our current apprentices at Microsoft. Safran has been with us for just over a year on an apprenticeship with our data centres team. Please enjoy and thank you for listening.
Well, not really seen an option. It was either you get a job or you go straight to university. With technician apprentices at Microsoft in the UK. I'm also the first female to be doing this Level 3 Infrastructure Technician Apprenticeship in the data centre. My journey to get to where I am is a little bit different. I'd always dreamed of being an animator and attended Leeds Beckett University studying computer animation and visual effects. It was good and I learned a lot, but I didn't feel very happy. I had this constant pressure that I put on myself that if I didn't go to university, I would never get a successful job. And so it seemed like this was the only option that I had for my future. Apprenticeships when I was at school were not really seen as an option. It was either you get a job or you go straight to university. Before graduating in July 2017, I went to see my favourite artist with my best friends in Manchester. What was meant to be a night of celebration turned into a night that I will never forget. This made me realise that I wanted to do something different with my life, leaving me with the big question of, what am I going to do now? I felt a little bit lost for quite a while and really struggled in between part-time jobs whilst living in a small town. It wasn't until a few years later that I had the opportunity to move to London and I managed to get a job in a cafe. I'd always thought in the back of my mind though that this was not where I was meant to be. So I quit 1 week before the pandemic hit in March 2020. One day I was browsing online at tech jobs to see if there was anybody who was willing to take on a potential employee with barely any experience, and that's when I saw the apprenticeship to work in a data centre. So I did what everyone would do, and I searched, what is a data centre? From that moment I decided to apply. I instantly came up with every reason as to why they would not hire me for this role. At the time I was no longer 18, I had been to university, and I had no tech background whatsoever. But luckily enough I was chosen, and I have enjoyed every minute of it since I have started. As a data center technician, it is my responsibility to support the data center by performing a range of different tasks. This includes fixing servers, replacing parts, installing cables, troubleshooting, testing, and deploying new racks inside the data center. During my apprenticeship, I have been taught everything from replacing a motherboard, CPU, memory, and power supply. I have also gained a range of top qualifications that are recognised in the IT industry that have made me stand out on my journey to becoming a great data centre technician. A big focus right now in the data centre is to create a more sustainable workplace. Microsoft have ambitious goals that they want to achieve to create a better future, and they are doing this by extending the life cycle of their hardware to reduce electrical waste, creating underwater data centres, immersion cooling, and hydrogen power cells. They are also removing diesel generators from our backup solutions and replacing them with renewable energy. These are just some of the fantastic ideas that have been put into place by Microsoft. I'm extremely lucky to be on this journey with Microsoft, as I have now been able to be a part of a team that is aiming to get data centres in the UK certified for having zero waste. This is a big environmental issue that can be tackled if we all work together, and I know that data centres are going to be an even bigger part of our future. So if Microsoft continue to develop more sustainable data centres, then I know I'm in the right place for creating a brighter future.
Thank you very much indeed, Sarah, and of course to Saffron. I'm now going to share a few words about the wider green skills offer that the Minister referenced in his opening remarks. We all know that schools, colleges and universities have a vital role to play in growing the pipeline of people with the skills that we need to deliver the net zero transition. We want to provide children and young people with a really high quality education and training which lets them pursue that future green career. And we're doing many things across all education settings, whether that's improving teacher training and development in STEM skills, which we know are critical, or expanding our post-16 programmes for the green economy. And it's on that latter point that I'll focus. And in developing our skills offer, we're building on the apprenticeship reforms, which align the majority of post-16 technical education and training with employer-led standards to ensure that people are getting the advanced technical and higher technical skills they need to get the really good green jobs. And we also look particularly to further education colleges, which are at the centre of their local communities and economies, which means they're key to unlocking opportunities across the country as we build back better and greener. And this year, we've started to introduce the first occupational traineeships in collaboration with sector bodies to provide a clear planned transition to an apprenticeship at level 2 or 3 for young people aged 16 to 24, supporting skills in key sectors for the green economy: construction, transport and logistics, manufacturing, and digital, of course. And we continue to develop those occupational traineeships over the coming months to include more key sectors for the green economy. Elsewhere, we're rolling out the new T-levels. These will support green careers, high quality technical qualifications, an alternative to A-levels, but underpinned by that employer-led approach. The new Building Services Engineering for Construction T-level, launched in September, covers housing retrofit, heat pump installation. From next September, T-levels in engineering, manufacturing, processing and control. And then from September 2023, those in agriculture, land management and production, all key areas for the green transition and for the green economy. Institutes of technology across England are utilising their state-of-the-art facilities, offering training in green skills. The East London Institute of Technology offers training in zero carbon energy production. The Greater Birmingham and Solihull IoT focuses on sustainable engineering. And these IoTs are also ensuring that we improve participation from underrepresented groups, women in STEM in particular. And we also need to strengthen the way in which the apprenticeship system responds to the changing needs of the green economy. The Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education convened a Green Apprenticeships Advisory Panel, heavily informed by the Green Jobs Task Force that we heard earlier, to ensure that apprenticeships and employers were coming together to ensure that they responded to those changing needs and speeding up the process to get those new standards in areas that are key to the green transition. Nuclear desk engineers, wind turbine maintenance, operation engineering technicians, research scientists, environmental practitioners. And we continue to map existing apprenticeship standards against those green occupations to identify opportunities to create new standards in areas such as retrofit, we've already heard about, agritech, and of course, renewable energy. But we also need to expand provision. And so we're introducing new higher technical qualifications that will be rolled out for teaching from September 2022, covering a range of occupational routes, particularly in digital construction and engineering. And they will provide more of those skills that we need to support the transition to net zero. But of course, many of the workforce are already in work that we need to go through this transition. And so we need to ensure we're quickly upskilling and retraining in those green sectors and occupations. And as part of this, through the National Skills Fund investment, we're delivering skills boot camps, providing short and flexible courses covering digital, technical and green skills. So the green skills boot camps include areas such as retrofit, solar, nuclear energy and vehicle electrification. And looking further ahead to 2025, we'll introduce the lifelong loan entitlement to provide individuals with a loan entitlement equivalent to 4 years of post-18 education to use over their lifetime. And as part of building towards that, trialling short course provision at levels 4 to 6 to support in-work adults to upskill and retrain. And of course, we're focusing that provision in areas that are crucial for that net zero transition, STEM and digital innovation in particular. But across all of this work, making a success of it is up to the collaboration between government, employers and education and training providers. And I think the Green Jobs Task Force we heard from earlier exemplifies that spirit of how we come together and work together on this agenda. So in conclusion, as all careers go green, there are a wide range of opportunities to develop the skills that are needed. So to be part of our net zero transition, green careers, everyone can get involved. Thank you very much indeed. And I think we're now going to see a promotional video for our T-levels.
So a friend told me about it and I hadn't heard about T-levels before, so I came to an open evening and since then I've been sold.
The T-levels are a new qualification aimed at students from 16 to 18 who are following on from their GCSEs. And at the end of the course, the T-level will be the equivalent of 3 A-levels.
For employers, it's going to be really effective for them because they're going to find that students have the knowledge that they're looking for in people that they want to employ.
It was really refreshing that T-levels were designed with employers so that the qualification meets industry need.
And they also are valid for UCAS points, which opens up the opportunities to attend university.
I think it's fresh, it's something new, it's very flexible in terms of teaching the content.
The T-level qualification is a great combination of academic and workplace experience. The students spend approximately 80% of the time in college and 20% of the time in the workplace.
I think that's a very good opportunity for the students, because what will happen is they will actually go in the same work environment that they are hoping to join in the future.
Because it's equivalent to 3 A-levels, it's really impressive to other employers. And I think as well, the work placement is what attracted me, because you actually are doing something. You're not just learning in a classroom, you are actually going out and learning in the industry.
There are 3 T-levels at the moment that started September 2020. But from September 2021, there will be 10.
So for students who haven't quite met the entry requirements to go directly onto a T-level, there's a transition year.
It's really fun because they kind of bring the enjoyment and the activities into the classroom where we can actually understand it.
So using computer-aided design systems like Revit and CAD is extraordinary. It's better than anything I've done in the past.
It gives you the opportunity to do placements and have a real feel out about how the real life is and how working life is.
Obviously, as teachers, we have a commitment to students, families, to give them the best options and the best future they could possibly get.
After our 2 years, there is an option of advanced apprenticeship.
For a time, I've been wanting to go to university, so it's going to help bridge that gap between college and university really, really well. Although at the moment, I'm thinking, well, with my experience, I might just go straight into the workplace. I can basically do whatever I want because I have those options.
I'll say to parents, this is one of the best things that will happen to your children, because at the moment, with all the skills shortage in the country, this is an opportunity for your child to develop employability skill and able to get a job.
It gives you the opportunity as well to go on to a higher apprenticeship, which can also lead to a degree apprenticeship, or if you want to go down the route of going to university, it also gives you that opportunity.
From our perspective, T-levels carry the same weight as A-levels and other qualifications. They carry UCAS tariff points at the same levels based on the depth and breadth of learning and the expected capabilities of a student. And we welcome T-level completers to come and study degree courses with us at Staffordshire University, and we value the learning journey that those students will have taken.
We as employers have kind of shaped how the T-levels will work.
It's really important for us to be forward thinking and really understand skill shortages that will be coming forward and really working with our customers to tackle that skill shortage.
I really hope that teachers will support T-levels. It's such a big thing, and it's a new thing that's been brought to the industry, and it is about those teachers being those role models and telling their students about T-levels and what the opportunities are.
If I was 16 and I was leaving school having taken my GCSEs, I would certainly be looking at the potential of taking a T-level, mainly due to the hands-on nature of the course.
Although I wasn't 100% sure I'd get everything from the course at the start that I did want, although it did seem really good, it's ticked literally every box I could have hoped for.
I love the depth of the learning that the students are getting from it. Previous as a nursery manager myself, that was something that I noticed that students maybe didn't have, and the depth of knowledge that they're gaining from it alongside the creative and practical experience that they're getting has been fantastic for them.
Some of them felt it was quite challenging at the beginning, but they've really developed the skills as they've gone on, and they're actually really enjoying the course, and we've had a lot of positive feedback.
What I'm doing, it's getting me to that next step faster.
If you want to find out more,
You can visit tlevels.gov.uk.
You can find out which providers are offering T-levels in your area by looking on the website.
Lots of providers have open days where you can find out more.
There's loads of information online too.
You can follow T-levels on Instagram, Twitter or Facebook.
Good thing. Thank you. I'm delighted now to invite David Hughes, Chief Exec of the Association of Colleges, who will come and share a bit about the college's commitment to the Green Agenda.
Thanks, Paul. Good to be here, and it really is good to be here. I've got 3 words and then a bit about colleges, and the 3 words I want to focus on are partnership, urgency and action. And partnership, I think, is critical to this agenda, and it's just fantastic to be here with the leadership of DFE and the leadership of the Minister, and working together with lots of employers talking about why it's so important to them. And that partnership, I think, is absolutely critical. It's really good to have other partners in the room, and we also need to think about the partnership with young people and adults themselves. And one of the things that seems to have come through COP really strongly in the last week is just how passionate and determined young people are to change the world that they live in. And I think that partnership and that energy is something we need to tap into, and colleges certainly want to do that. But the second word is about urgency, because I think, you know, we've had lots of talk and we've had lots of rhetoric, and it's great to see the employers we've got in the room taking action. But actually the urgency is enormous. You know, we just take the little bit about skills and think about all of those statistics we've heard about how many jobs are going to need green skills and how many people we need with green skills to retrofit homes, to change the world. It's massive urgency. We really must start yesterday rather than tomorrow. And then the third thing, and this has come through again really strongly from the young people in COP26, but also the young people colleges work with, they just want to see action. They don't want just lots and lots of talk about it. They want to see the action. So colleges have come together. They work with and educate and train about 700,000 young people, about 1.3 million adults. And we've set out our commitment, our green college commitment for the future. And I want to spend just a few moments just taking us through what colleges are saying they want to do and what they need to be able to do it. So really simply, we're saying we need to get moving quickly, and the students that colleges work with are demanding it of their leaders. And I'm absolutely blown away by the college leadership now who are saying, actually, we really need to get on this journey. And it's changed, I think. The last perhaps couple of years, things have moved forward much more quickly than they have in previous times. And colleges work across all of these industries, and there's some stats there about the kinds of courses they cover. If you think about construction and transport and manufacturing, they're the sorts of jobs that colleges are training people for now. Enormous impact they can have if we get the curriculum right, if we get the engagement with employers right, if we get T-levels delivered in all of those sectors, and we embed green skills, and we embed sustainability. We get people thinking about sustainability across the whole of the curriculum rather than just on the specific green skills like heat pumps, which are really important but not sufficient. So there's a massive impact we can have as a sector. And there are lots and lots of jobs. This slide suggests there are going to be about 2 million jobs, hence the urgency, hence the impact. And a lot of these jobs are going to be filled through young people and adults coming through colleges. A lot are going to be filled by people already in work, needing retraining, not just training. And again, it's colleges working with employers, working with the DFE, trying to get this right, because at the moment we've got a problem. We've got a bit of a mismatch between the jobs of the future and the demand. But colleges are doing all sorts of things to try and drive this. Here's a really good example that I'd really recommend you look up about a college just trying to demonstrate to its students, in its community, with its employers, why all of this matters so much. It's a fantastic example. But the problem we've got is this. This is the demand at the moment in the labour market. These are the green skills demanded by employers. This comes from very recent survey data. And it's not as comprehensive as what we've heard already this morning. It's not all of those big skills, it's not the 2 million jobs. We're talking thousands of jobs demanding green skills at the moment, not millions. And that's not sending the signal to the colleges and to the students that they should be demanding those green skills themselves. So if you look through the sorts of jobs and skills being demanded, it doesn't really match. So, and this is the example of Kingston Moorwood College, trying to sort of bring together the players in one place to kind of do something about that. And really nice project that EAUC has been running around carbon literacy, trying to embed an understanding of why this matters to students. And the good news about this is students just love this curriculum. They love learning about it because they really want to do something about it. So our college commitment is really simple. It's across three things. We want to be able to deliver the green skills that matter now, you know, the net zero, the digital skills that are going to matter, the air source heat pumps, the offshore wind and so on. We want to embed in the curriculum, across the curriculum, ideas about sustainability. This isn't just about green jobs, it's about everybody changing behaviour. It's about every job being a green job in the future. And we want colleges to be able to get green buildings that really, really work, a bit like the classroom we're in now. So really simple commitment that we've got. And what we've done, working with partners who are in the room at the moment, we've set out a roadmap. Now, you won't be able to see the detail of this, but the point of it is that lots of people get stuck. They don't really know where to start on this agenda. And what this does for colleges and universities is says, do a self-assessment, work out where you are on the journey to net zero. And from there, we'll help you work out what your next step is. What can you do to move up the chain? And it takes you through some really pragmatic actions that can be taken. So universities and colleges are now using this roadmap to get to kind of climate net zero and to get to the biodiversity that we need. Really exciting program. And it's very pragmatic. So it says, you know, if you're an established college in this agenda, this is what you look like. This is how you will be behaving. And it sets out some really simple, pragmatic things that you can self-assess on. But it also is very, very aspirational. So it goes also to what would you look like if you'd moved from, you know, kind of an emerging or an established college or university to someone who's leading? And what would you be expected to do if you were a leading college or university around climate change? So really pragmatic steps that are being taken, because it seems to me that that's what everybody needs. Sometimes it can be overwhelming to think about what can be done next. All of us, I think, need some help and some hand-holding to be able to get there. But I've finished with just a quote from one of our students that we've been working with. And the students, I think, are the ones that are driving this agenda, and particularly the young students. And I'd really recommend to DFE that we engage the young people in this agenda really fully, because it is their future. Right? It's a bit cliched, isn't it? But it's their energy as well that's really exciting. And here's a quote. I won't read it to you, but you can read it yourself. And it's their aspiration for their future and for our future that we need to grasp. So partnership's really important. Urgency is absolutely essential. But action is what we all need to take. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. And I think we're now going to see another promotional video for traineeships.
Intertrain UK Limited is a national training provider within the rail sector. We predominantly service the rail industry in safety critical competencies. We work with over 1,000 plus employers throughout the UK. We also run apprenticeships, traineeships, other government funded programmes to support those who are unemployed or in support of work placements. The traineeship programme was developed with Intertrain and NSAR. We worked together in putting a pilot together for the rail industry. We felt that traineeships offered a route for individuals to have a taste of the industry, for them to make the decision if they wanted to move forward with a career in that sector.
McGinley Support Services is a labour supply agency into the infrastructure markets. We supply lots of people on many of the infrastructures that you may travel around on from day to day. McGinley is a really socialist conscious company, and we're always looking for avenues to bring young people into our industry. We really believe that the traineeship is going to help us grow our young workforce in an ageing industry to provide blockers for that skill shortage that we foresee coming in the future.
ISS is Infra Safety Solutions. We're very established and highly respected for supplying contingent labour to our key clients up and down the UK. ISS was interested in becoming involved in the occupational traineeship because we believed that there was limited opportunity for young people leaving school. A traineeship almost provides that stepping stone into the workplace. It enables them to see what the expectation might be like, gives them a little flavour, a little taster as to if they were on either an apprenticeship or were offered a full-time career with ISS, what that looks like and feels like to them.
I've always wanted to work on the railway, so this was a great opportunity to get onto it. I've tried to go on to different courses like construction, plumbing and plastering, but the track maintenance was probably the best bet in terms of the long run. After I finish programme, I'd hope to get straight into work and just work my way up. The traineeship has helped me by teaching me a lot about how the railway system works and how to use all tools and different avenues I can take.
Before this, I was in college. I was doing BTEC level 3 mechanical engineering, but then after that I was trying to look for just general apprenticeships. Most jobs I've looked for say we require experience, and you search on the internet and you wonder, where do I get that physical experience? And you see the occupational traineeship and you think, right, I need to do this course, I'll get this amount of training, this amount of experience, I'll get whatever qualifications I need to do. Now I'm ready for that ideal job that I want to get into. After we finish, we should be working as just general trackmen. But from there, this course opens up the doors to several progression routes. Even though we're at the bottom right now, we can start climbing the ladder, becoming higher and higher and higher in our company or in other companies.
Recently, we've just taken our first cohort of traineeship candidates through their whole process, and all of them are now in real full-time jobs, and they're happy, successful, and actually they're doing really, really well. They're not a trainee anymore, they're one of our workforce, so that's what a trainee can expect from us.
Thank you. And now that all remains for me is to ask the Minister to offer some closing remarks to bring us to a close. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Paul, and thank you very much to everyone who's contributed today. It's really heartening to see all of the different things that are already going on, bringing the next generation into, the next generation of skills. And I have to say that the more we talk about it, the more clear it is that it's going to be the skills that you are helping young people to develop, which is going to be able to help us deliver on our aspirations to hit net zero. And Centrica, who are here today, I know have made a commitment to recruit and train thousands of green apprenticeships over the next 2 years. And this is exactly the sort of thing that we want to see. And the Engineering Construction Industry Training Board have recently joined forces with Scottish universities to train the next generation of energy transition leaders through their Energy Transition Leadership Programme. Again, this is precisely the sort of collaboration we're going to need to have between employers and the skills sectors to collaboratively deliver this green agenda. And the government's not going to shirk from its responsibility either. We're rolling out big, bold, ambitious policies to get us where we need to go, and we're galvanising international support because we need to bring the world with us. Extreme weather events, flooding, drought, wildfires are becoming so common that we must pay heed to what they are telling us. This week we've heard some devastating stories from around the world, often in the most deprived nations, who are suffering from the adverse effects of climate change. We need to act for them. We need to act for the future. The science couldn't be clearer. By the middle of this century, the world needs to reduce emissions to as close to zero as possible, with a small amount remaining sucked up through natural carbon sinks like forests and new technologies like carbon capture. The Prime Minister has this week called on countries to set their own domestic plans for cutting emissions. And a vital part of this will be ensuring we have a highly skilled workforce to get us where we need to be. And we will continue to lead by example in this country. The Net Zero strategy outlines further measures for Britain to transition to a green and sustainable future, helping businesses and consumers to move to green power, supporting hundreds of thousands of well-paid jobs, and leveraging up to £90 billion of private investment by 2030. We will lead the world in ending our own contribution to climate change because it's the right thing to do, but we will also do it because of the mammoth economic opportunity it can bring. The jobs supported will be spread across the UK, with specialists in low-carbon fuels in Northern Ireland, and low-carbon hydrogen in Sheffield, electric vehicle battery production in the northeast of England, and more engineers in Wales, and offshore wind technicians in Scotland. As Paul outlined earlier, we have the training programmes in place now to help support adults and young people pursue the green careers they want. And we hope that this session has inspired you all to grasp the opportunities that lie ahead in supporting Britain's transition to net zero. And I'll end with a thought that I had whilst I was listening to Sarah speak. And on her PowerPoint, I think it said the planetary computer. And it reminded me of the first planetary computer, which was in Douglas Adams' book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Whereas those of you who remember, a distant civilization decided that they needed to build an enormous computer to work out what the answer to life, the universe, and everything was. And that computer was called Deep Thought. And it cogitated for thousands of years on what the meaning of life, the universe, and everything was. And at the end of those thousands of years, they asked it what the answer was, and it said, "Oh, I don't think you'll like it." They said, "No, come on, tell us." And Deep Thought said, 42. And so they decided they needed to build a bigger computer to ask what the question really was. And that supercomputer was Earth, it turned out. That the planet that we were living on was itself a form of computer. And it's actually, I think, as we consider the future of our planet, future of life on our planet, how we can come together to sustain those two things, that we will understand a lot more about ourselves, a lot more about the society we want to be, a lot more about what we can achieve, and in its way will help us to answer the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. Nice to be with you today. Thank you so much for coming.